HCM is critical है, HCM is critical है, HCM ही आउटली ले रहे हैं। जो आपकी डिजिटल चैलेंज है वो किस काम में तो इसलिए बहुत टॉप से बात ले ये नीचे वाला चेक कर रहा हूँ, ये मेरे चल रहे हैं वीडियो कैप्चर। बिजनेस के जो लोग हैं उनकी एक्सपेक्टेशन डिफरेंट है वो कहते हैं कि ERP खराब है वी आर आप लोगों को मास्टर दे तो वी आर मुझे लग रहा है वीडियो कैप्चर हुआ इसमें वीडियो कैप्चर डिवाइस में ऑडियो नहीं आ टेंशन पीछे से देखो देखो with the lower services, and we are talking about IT and digital transformation over here. But I think that what we need and what we want to achieve in our personal and professional lives. And it's starting to go that we want to have success. And those success defines the criteria that how we would like to run our personal and professional. Success is not necessarily to be reaching some top in some area. You see also success is not really to be achieving a certain reward. Success is about being content and achieving the milestone that often makes you rather than and it's very important to relate to that. Because whatever we are looking for all the secrets that will come and say about it, how this is where our transformation is from the back to the I think it's very important to relate them the end goal that is planned. We want to achieve for people that we work around. For a group of people that
a successful person, a successful business, and importantly, the successful era that we are going to be part on. Transformation, everybody wants. In all our lives, starting from a kid to a university student and going to our professional career, we all want to get transformation. And that transformation makes us a better person. That transformation makes us strive to reach the next goals and to achieve the results that we are looking in our personal and professional lives. And this transformation is happening not today in the 20th or 21st century. This transformation is happening from the time of the era the mankind started realizing and moving forward on this one. We all are part of a certain transformation, and that transformation is happening in our day-to-day life and business. Now here comes along this 21st century, and we started working from 2000 onwards, where suddenly this transformation adds the word of digital in that. And suddenly everybody of us start talking about what is this digital transformation that is going to impact the life of us and the people around us and the ecosystem around us. Speaking from the platform of SAP, I always say the vision of this company, which is to make the life of the people better. That connects the way we would like to talk about that how we can impact and how we can create a vision and how we can go along on making a success in the digital transformation on the lives of the people. Today, the most important and easy things is to get an idea. Sure that we are a step ahead. We are a step ahead in the industry. To work forward and clearly look into the direction that we are looking at. The problem comes in when the people are very, very difficult to become that, to implement that change that comes with the digital transformation. And people overall are worried that this change may get exposed them in their digitally transformation world, or even to their end customers, or even to their employers as well. I think we need to relate to this one. We need to very well understand that how that success, this digital transformation, that customer experience, and the end customer goals has to be related in the dynamic world of moving world of today. You know, we get a certain app, we get a certain solution from a certain company, and very next day, there is something new or better that comes around, and the customer experience want to have that one. We are in continuously dynamic world of requirement and changes. The ERP word itself may get obsolete with times, and with some new requirements coming in and the new thought process coming in, which has to, at the end result, reach to that customer experience that we are talking about. I think as service providers, and I always say, you take any big name over there, from SAP to Oracle to IBM to Microsoft, or many of these new brands that are coming in, they all are providing solutions to provide a digitally transformed experience that our customers want. What we need at this very point of time is to define and guide them out over there that how this change is business going to help and support them, and how it can, moving forward, can impact the businesses. 2020 is a very difficult year. With all this corona pandemic that we are talking about, the way of doing business has completely changed. This room may be half full, but let me tell you, this conference may be going live on many of the bedrooms out over there, many of the offices, and many of the people will be seeing we're doing some parallel work there as well. The reach and anticipation of people of knowledge has completely changed. It's not anymore to be required at a certain point and at a doorstep. It is available with a click out there, and everybody is listening and adopting based on that change that we are implementing, talking about today. And that's the big change that is bringing in. We were supposed that this human interaction and direct interaction is the only way of doing business. Last year told us that no, the business could have been run sitting in our houses with all the work from home facilities out there, and all these top companies changing their business models completely. Offices getting closed, the people getting connected from one end to another with a click of the button, and the things happening. The way of this digital transformation and need is become the use of, as the need of every business today. You know, when we used to talk about the word digital transformation, suddenly the era of big companies come into our minds. And we used to think about that this is the responsibility of these big industries that run these digital transformations, and they owe it back to their customers to provide that experience that we are talking about. Gone were the days now. Even the small corner shop over there, their customers wants to have that digitally transformed experience coming out from you. Gone were the days when it was expected that only those top companies will provide them. Today, every brick and corner has to provide that customer experience that has to be digitally transformed, and people expect it. People expect from you that at the end of the day, you will be providing that end-to-end services to your customers so that they can be connected at very point of time. Our span of thinking and talking is completely changing. Our reach out and our set of information reaching out there is completely changing. Our success criteria is completely changing. Our whole business dynamics, how to reach to the customer and approach him, his thinking pattern in analytics. We can predict the customers like anything today. We can predict their behaviors. We can predict what will be their outcome of a certain decision within the milestone and information that we are providing them. And we are controlling their decisions. I always say, what ERP provides? It provides you the right set of information to the right set of people at the right time. If any of these points are not at the right place, the decision will be wrong. And that decision maker will make a wrong decision for its customer or the ecosystem as well. We as the system providers need to make sure that we provide the right set of data at the right time to the right decision maker, and that makes and runs the business. The definition of every business that we talk today, they want to have this right set of analytics data available for them to make the right decisions. I think at the end, I will just mention out, it's important to have that absolutely clear customer experience. We need to be very clearly digitally transforming ourselves with the complete set of information and data that is being provided by the ecosystem. And we have to be very clearly industry focused, that which industry that we are talking about, and use the best KPIs that are being run all across the world to make sure that we get something great for the people that we are working with, and most importantly for Pakistan, because we have to make sure that what technology, what impact that we use, it should be for the better interest for the people of this country. And we owe this back to this country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Due to the delay in commencing our conference, we will not be observing our tea break. However, tea is served on your left and your right. So if anybody wants to have some tea, they can help themselves. Now, I would like to call upon our biggest sponsor for the day, the Chairman of Excellence Delivered, Mr. Sajjad Sayed.
Assalamualaikum everyone. My name is Sajjad Sayed. First of all, indeed a pleasure and an honor to be part of this conference. I remember a couple of years ago, jab HR Legend start hua tha, Ghulam Mustafa Saab came to my office and I told him it's a wonderful idea. And we are always happy to help young entrepreneurs as much as we can. And over the years, I've seen it grow. In terms of technologies and all that, I think it's a very unique event, and it's a pleasure to host you here. और बड़ी मज़े की बात ये समझ में आती है कि in spite of COVID and in spite of the wonderful smog, the freakish smog that we have in Lahore these days, I see a pretty decent attendance and a lot more people who've joined us online. आज का टॉपिक जो उन्होंने मुझे दिया, उन्होंने एक रोबोटिक्स, आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस, ERP की बात कर रहे थे, एंड कमिंग एज समबडी हुज बीन कॉल्ड बाबाई ERP बिकॉज ऑलमोस्ट गुजर गया. आई रिमेंबर फर्स्ट इम्प्लीमेंटेशन जिसका मैं आई वाज पार्ट ऑफ वाज वे बैक इन 1993 जब मैं स्लम्बरजे में था और ऑयल फील्ड सर्विसेज के अंदर उस वक्त SAP की इम्प्लीमेंटेशन हो रही थी. एंड देन कॉन्सिक्वेंटली worked for PwC, worked for Oracle, and then worked for SAP. And 10 years ago when I EXD को found किया and January 1 को जब EXD को छोड़ दिया as a CEO. So I have seen over the years ERP as a product, as a technology transform and getting more and more in tune with where the industry is going, where business is going. A lot of you might remember कि एक ज़माने में financial management systems को ERP कहा जाता था. So आपका GL, AP, AR वगैरह होता था और हम कहते थे यही ERP, और बड़ी एक ये revolution होता था कि जनरल लेजर जो है वो सिस्टम से निकल रहा है. कुछ ERPs उधर ही रह गए, कुछ ज़रा आगे चले गए, और नेक्स्ट वर्जन आता था कि जी ये अब नया एक और चीज़ आ गई है, ERP में प्रोक्योरमेंट भी हो सकती है, PO निकल आते हैं, सप्लाई चेन मैनेजमेंट हो जाती है. So that I would say was version 2.0. And the definition of ERP was कि ERP खाली GL, AP, AR फाइनेंशियल सिस्टम नहीं होता, फिक्स एसेट्स वगैरह, ये एक्चुअली सप्लाई चेन भी इसमें होता है और इसमें फाइनेंशियल भी होता है और ये इंटीग्रेटेड होता है, और ये बहुत बड़ी बात थी और कंपनीज यूज्ड टू स्पेंड मिलियंस ऑन इट. फिर किसी ने कहा कि यार द वर्ल्ड ERP एंटरप्राइज रिसोर्स प्लानिंग इज नॉट कंप्लीट टिल यू एक्चुअली पुट HR इन इट. वो भी बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट हिस्सा है. सो ERP की डेफिनेशन अगेन चेंज्ड एंड इट बिकेम कि ERP वो होता है जिसमें HR भी हो, फाइनेंस भी हो और सप्लाई चेन भी हो. लो एंड बिहोल्ड 5 to 10 years down the road it changed again. और उन्होंने कहा जी जब तक मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कॉस्टिंग ना हो ERP होता ही नहीं है. मैन्युफैक्चरिंग होनी चाहिए, कॉस्टिंग होनी चाहिए, मेंटेनेंस होनी चाहिए, मेन ऑपरेशंस आर सपोज्ड टू बी पार्ट ऑफ ERP. एंड वी सेड यस दैट्स फाइन, एंड ये सही बात है. दैट हैपेंड. एंड देन पीपल सेड यार समथिंग कॉल्ड अ कस्टमर एज वेल. सो CRM भी होना चाहिए बिकॉज अ लॉट ऑफ सर्विस इंडस्ट्री ग्रो कर रही थी उस वक्त, टेलकोज, बैंक्स. So people started talking about service industry, and lo and behold, CRMs became part of ERP. And legacy-wise, जो बड़े players थे, कुछ players again जो major players से पीछे रह गए, और एक दो players ज़रा आगे निकल गए, namely SAP and Oracle. And the new definition of ERP came up to be कि ERP होना चाहिए, CRM होना चाहिए, और इसके अंदर manufacturing, HR, payroll, और ये सारा कुछ हो तो फिर एक enterprise resource planning बनता है. वक्त गुजरा और किसी ने कहा कि जब तक BI ना हो, रिपोर्टिंग, सारी डेटा का फ़ायदा क्या अगर हम रिपोर्टें ना ले सकें. सो द न्यू डेफिनेशन ऑफ ERP केम अराउंड एंड पीपल टर्न अराउंड एंड सेड कि यार ERP वो होना चाहिए जिसके अंदर BI और बिजनेस इंटेलिजेंस भी. बिजनेस इंटेलिजेंस के बगैर ERP होता ही नहीं है. एंड एवरीबडी एग्रीड एंड वी ऑल केम हियर एंड वी सेड ERP की ये नई डेफिनेशन है, और लोगों ने बड़े डैशबोर्ड भी बनाया और सारा कुछ बनाया. एंड देन वी एंटर्ड this particular century and maybe this particular decade, and the definition changed yet again. So आज की definition जो है that is कि हमने data भी collect कर लिया, पूरी enterprise के हर facet का data collect कर लिया हमने, finance का, supply chain का, manufacturing का, maintenance का, CRM का, हमने data collect कर लिया. हमने उसके ऊपर dashboard और reporting भी बना ली, बट इंटरनेट एरा ने एक काम किया, उसने स्पीड ऑफ बिजनेस को बहुत ज़्यादा आगे बढ़ा दिया। आपकी एफएमसीजी इंडस्ट्री, फार्मा इंडस्ट्री, एनी इंडस्ट्री में जब जनरेशन वाई, जनरेशन जेड या मिलेनियल्स आए, जिनका बाइंग ट्रेंड एक टिकटॉक से बदल जाता है, जब आपकी सप्लाई चेन और डिमांड की फोरकास्टिंग इंस्टेड ऑफ आवर सेल्स एक्सपर्ट्स फिगरिंग आउट के सेल्स फोरकास्ट क्या होगी, एक ब्लॉगर कहीं बैठ के कर रहा है या एक टिकटॉकर कर रहा है, और उस टिकटॉकर की एक, और या कोई ट्विटर पे बैठा हुआ आदमी कर रहा है और उसकी एक ट्वीट और एक पिक्चर से आपकी डिमांड ज़मीन आसमान से चली पे पहुंच जाती है या बिल्कुल ज़ीरो हो जाती है, और आपने अपनी पूरी सप्लाई चेन, अपनी मैन्युफैक्चरिंग, अपनी सप्लाई चेन, अपनी प्रोक्योरमेंट अलाइन करनी है उस टिकटॉकर के साथ और उतनी ही रिस्पॉन्सिव होनी है, तो यू नीड समथिंग एल्स। You need the digitization of your entire organization. You need AI. You need to be ingrained with your supply chains. You need to be ingrained with your social media. और ये generation X, generation Y, it is here to grow. Social media और लोगों के buying trends ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा तेज़ होंगे, ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा को responsive होना पड़ेगा। एंड टू हैंड हमने जो ERP करना था, सप्लाई चेन, HR, पेरोल वगैरह, वो कर लिया। दैट्स द बैकबोन, एवरीबडी डज इट, इट्स इजी। नाउ इज द टाइम फॉर समथिंग एल्स। नाउ इज द टाइम फॉर ब्लॉकचेन, फॉर योर collaboration with your customers, collaboration with your vendors. Now is the time for IoT. Now is the time to afford the delay कि शिफ्ट खत्म होगी और शिफ्ट एंड पे डेटा डाला जाएगा सिस्टम में प्रोडक्शन का, और फिर गाड़ी। Doesn't work like that anymore. The world is much faster than that. The world is not going to wait till the end of your shift for you to get your production data. You need your production data now. Your customers need to know, for those who are doing business to business manufacturing, your customers need to know now कि उनका ऑर्डर इस वक्त किधर लगा हुआ है. Your salesman needs to know now कि कब वो प्रॉमिस कर सकता है. And the third element that came into it was an element of artificial intelligence. Data इतना ज़्यादा हो गया है, इतना ज़्यादा डेटा है. ERP ने सोशल मीडिया के साथ इंटरैक्ट करके, बाकी चीज़ और अपनी सप्लाई चेन में अपने वेंडर्स के साथ इंटरैक्ट करके थ्रू ब्लॉकचेन एंड ऑल, यू हैव सो मच डेटा दैट इट इज़ नॉट ह्यूमनली पॉसिबल टू सी योर 4 डैशबोर्ड्स, टू सी योर 2 डैशबोर्ड्स एंड एक्चुअली रिस्पॉन्ड. अल्लाह के फजल से about 6 years ago, maybe we saw that trend. And as a company, we thought that we are going to do 2 or 3 things very differently. We invested in an organization, in a division called digital innovation, and we started doing pure R&D work in this. नतीजा उसका ये हुआ कि by the grace of God we won and delivered the first AI project in a public sector. Securities and Exchange Commission में आप जाएं तो वहाँ पे आप जो भी वेबसाइट से कम्युनिकेट करते हैं, that's based on an SAP based AI system. जितने सवाल जवाब आते हैं वहाँ पे अब वो कॉल सेंटर चल ही नहीं सकते. कॉल सेंटर की कॉस्ट रखने की ज़रूरत ही नहीं है. देयर आर AI सिस्टम्स व्हिच कैन रिस्पॉन्ड टू दैट. और ये आप याद रखें, एक लीगल डॉक्यूमेंट आपको दे रहे हैं ढूंढ के. उस कॉन्वर्सेशनल AI को अभी हमने लोकलाइज करना है. इज दैट एन ERP? आई डोंट नो, मे बी इट इज. सो इट इज़ बियॉन्ड फाइनेंशियल नाउ, इट इज़ बियॉन्ड सप्लाई चेन नाउ. द गेम इज़ वेरी वेरी डिफरेंट. Yes, you need the financial systems and the HR systems and the supply chain systems, but वो आपके भी agile होने चाहिए, वो भी आपके real time होने चाहिए, वही भी आपके responsive होने चाहिए, but the story doesn't stop there. And for those of you जिनके साथ बड़ी मैंने detail जो Friday afternoon को मेरी discussions होती हैं friends and colleagues के साथ, I have this technology sessions every Friday afternoon. You're all welcome to join us. Office hours होते हैं मेरे. उसके अंदर अगर आप देखें, so a lot of time it is discussed कि ERP या टेक्नोलॉजी अगर रिस्पॉन्सिव नहीं है, अगर लोकलाइज नहीं है, तो उसका फ़ायदा हमें इतना नहीं है. अगर आप CRM सिस्टम्स बना रहे हैं या आजकल के चैटबॉट सिस्टम्स बना रहे हैं या AI के सिस्टम्स बनाते हैं, और अगर वो रोमन उर्दू नहीं सीख सकते, जो इंग्लिश में उर्दू लिखते हैं, इफ़ दे आर नॉट अंडरस्टैंडिंग दैट, मे बी वी आर मिसिंग समथिंग इन दैट, मे बी वी आर मिसिंग समथिंग. अगर आप कोरिया में चले जाएं, आप चाइना में चले जाएं, सारा कुछ चाइनीज़ में होता है. अगर हमारी 70% पॉपुलेशन उर्दू में कम्युनिकेट करती है, तो एज ए सर्विस प्रोवाइडर वी हैव नो चॉइस. या हम उन 70% लोगों को जो कि 14 करोड़ पढ़ते हैं अंग्रेजी सिखा दें और अंग्रेजी में कम्युनिकेट करने के लिए फोर्स करें, विच इज़ अनलाइकली. वी हैड 70 years, वी मिस दैट बोट. सो इफ वी कांट डू दैट, तो मे बी टेक्नोलॉजी नीड्स टू शिफ्ट. और हम क्यों छोड़ें अपनी नेशनल लैंग्वेज? सो इट इज़ important, urgent and immediate कि हम अपने जो ERP है या अपने systems हैं, enterprise resource planning है कि systems हैं, उनको responsive करें, उनको connected करें और उनके साथ intelligence derive करें. The new definition of ERP is not just the financial, not just the financial. I'm not saying not financial, not just the financial. The new definition of ERP goes much, much further beyond. ERP को, जैसे कि मैं हमेशा अपने afternoon groups में कहता हूँ, is a journey. It's not a step. It's not a project. A lot of times we turn around and we say कि ERP का project कर दें. It's not a project. Project is one, it is a journey, एक सफ़र है. You start with your financials and your HR and your supply chain and your procurement and then your CRM and maybe your dashboards and maybe your office of the CFOs and maybe your digital boardrooms, but that's not where you end. You have to have an intelligence based into this. You need to have your blockchains, you need to have your AI, you need to have your IoT and connected with your production systems. Only then will we have a digital experience. I'm glad to say that a lot of our customers have gone into that journey. I'll give you an example of a very well-known customers of ours, Maria B. और इसमें millions of dollars spend करने की ज़रूरत नहीं होती. We turned around with a very small project of implementing an ERP, financial HR payroll, whatnot. And then they turned around and they said कि यार wait a minute, हम लोगों ने अपने retail systems को जब तक इनके साथ connect नहीं किया तो हमें वो value addition नहीं मिलेगी. So next step was to connect their retail systems, which were already there. Now the level of intelligence that started coming out was amazing. And the next step was a very logical one. कि हमारी online sale, मैंने उनसे पूछा कि what's your biggest store? They said, यार our biggest store is online. मैंने कहा, wait a minute, if online is your biggest store, why is that not connected? They said, नहीं जी, उसकी हम अलग inventory रखते हैं. Another very small project. And now we gave them a connected enterprise. Now you are end-to-end connected. And that is a digital experience. But the story doesn't end there. The story doesn't end there, it continues. जैसे गुलाम मुस्तफा ने अपनी definition में बताया था, from the industry trends, technology is already there. बहुत सारी technology इधर है. You need somebody to help you to put it all together. With this, I again thank Ghulam Mustafa. I thank the audience for making it through, especially two of my very dear friends, Nadeem Saab and Saqib Saab, for coming all the way from Islamabad. आप तो हमें fog में इस्लामाबाद बुलाते रहते हैं. This is our time to get you here in fog. And Sajid Saab, thank you very much for coming. Ji. I appreciate it all. I hope you guys have a wonderful conference. And if we'll all be around, so I think we'll all have a good chat. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for broadening our understanding of the system and how it's not a project, but rather an ongoing operation. Now, ladies and gentlemen, to enlighten us about the for small and medium enterprises, please put your hands together for the country head of ACCA Pakistan, Mr. Sajid Aslam.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum and very good morning. ERP, when we talk about in a finance profession, so if I go back to 90s or like mid-90s when we were under training, so बहुत बड़ा ख्वाब होता था कि finance भी करना है और SAP भी सीखना है और Oracle भी सीखना है और ERP भी करना है. And then we came to the real life. I got a chance for implementation across the world. SAP की implementation थी Nestle के साथ और multiple countries में वो implementation की, and then the learning was very, very different. It's not about ERP. It's never been about the system. It's always different. So important thing is to really understand the fundamental and the basics why a business should or should not need an ERP, and if they need an ERP, at what size. एक बहुत बड़ी myth होती थी हमारी finance में भी initially कि ERP लगाने से cost कम हो जाती है. ये नहीं होता और ERP लगाने से हमेशा cost बढ़ती है, but value ज़्यादा deliver हो सकती है if we choose to do so. So this is the concept which we will be discussing. Okay, thank you. So I have got some slides. I'll just take you through those. My name is Sajid Aslam. I'm heading ACCA in Pakistan. ACCA is a global professional accounting body, which is operating right now in almost 180 countries. And just going back to a little bit around the history, it's 117 years old organization. It started somewhere in 1904 by challenging the status quo. यूरोप में उस वक्त ख़वातीन को वोट का राइट नहीं था जब ACCA स्टार्ट हुआ, एंड दे सेड एवरीबडी शुड बी इंक्लूडेड एंड इट हैज़ टू हैव अ वेरी इंक्लूसिव अप्रोच. और 1909 में ACCA के पास खातून मेंबर थी. ये वो टाइम था जब अकाउंटिंग प्रोफेशन में सिर्फ वो लोग आ सकते थे जो बहुत एलिटिस्ट ग्रुप होता था और हु कैन अफोर्ड दैट, एंड इट वाज अ वेरी टफ एंड एक्सपेंसिव एजुकेशन. एंड ACCA challenged that status quo, and for last 117 years we are maintaining that history. It's an open access, but there is a restriction. You have to have a competencies to become a ACCA members. It's 821 right now. If we look at the current stats, it's 821,000 people who are either they have completed the journey or they are completing their journey. There are 10,000 plus practicing firms across the globe which are working in a different field, from audit, account to advisory to tax to transaction management to ERP consulting. There are 114 education partners globally with which we are working, and they are feeding in a lot of research and learning, and we are partnering with them, and there's exchange programs as well. People can come from one education system to other. And the presence is almost 180 countries. Now, what does it mean? It brings us to the level where we can provide answers to some of the questions which are raised today. And we can prepare people for tomorrow, and that comes through the professional insight. And if you look at professional insight, we are not talking about as a ACCA, there is a model for SME to look at when they are looking at the digital transformation. The first part of that model is they have to literally think ahead. They have to literally rethink around the growth opportunity. What has disrupted? Can they really intervene in a social behaviors and they can create a business opportunity there? Does market access help them to grow? क्या उनकी growth aspiration है भी? हमने SME में एक बहुत बड़ी research की थी जहाँ पे बहुत दफ़ा एक conversation होती है कि SME के पास access to finance नहीं है, professional management नहीं है. The research came back, they don't have a vision, they don't want to grow. जिस दिन उन्होंने अपनी पसंद का घर और गाड़ी ले ली और कुछ plots ले लिए, they don't want to go national, they don't want to go regional. So अगर आप वहाँ पे डिजिटल ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन की बात कर रहे हैं तो फंडामेंटल ग्रोथ अपॉर्चुनिटी, वहाँ पे ग्रोथ एस्पिरेशंस ही नहीं है. देन बिजनेस मॉडल है, वैल्यू प्रोपोजिशन है. दीज आर द थिंग्स व्हिच नीड टू बी एड्रेस्ड फर्स्ट, एंड देन इट कम्स टू द कस्टमर सेगमेंट. यू लिटरली हैव टू बी इन बेड विद योर कस्टमर. यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड देम. उनकी सेगमेंटेशन है, B2B सर्विस है, B2C सर्विस है, B2B2C है, फिर आप फेस टू फेस इंटरेक्शन होगी, सोशल डिजिटल क्या इंटरेक्शंस होंगी. दीज आर द क्रिटिकल क्वेश्चन. And then you have to look at the workplace. Before you look at the rest of the automation, सबसे पहले आपने अपनी workplace, अपने talent को देखना है कि जो resources आपके पास हैं, are they familiar with that? क्या वो email apps, आपके collaboration tool, MS Teams वो चला लेंगे? वो customer से किस तरह interact कर रहे होंगे? जो data अगर आपकी website से आ रहा है या आपके system से निकल रहा है, are they literally able to read that? So आपका even Microsoft Office, fundamental, PowerPoint, Word, these are the things which need to be implemented. फिर टैलेंट है और सप्लाई चेन. सो वी हैव टू लुक एट द वैल्यू चेन. सेकेंड पार्ट, स्टार्ट स्मॉल, डोंट गो बिग. मारिया बी की बड़ी अच्छी एग्जांपल दी एक पीस मिल इंप्लीमेंटेशन की और ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन की, चेंज की. साकिब ने भी जो एग्जांपल दी थी, इट हैपेंस ओवर द टाइम. यू हैव टू प्रिपेयर योरसेल्फ. सो थिंक अहेड, rethink the entire business model if you are thinking in a digital transformation, and take small steps first. Workplace tools introduce करवाएं, ईमेल्स, कोलैबोरेशन, फंडामेंटल अकाउंटिंग लेके आएँ, बेसिक ऑर्डर फुलफिलमेंट लेके आएँ, जिसमें फोरकास्टिंग का प्रोसेस, ये एज अ प्रोसेस चाहिए आपको बिफोर यू ऑटोमेट दैट. देन वी टॉक अबाउट द बेसिक कस्टमर एक्विजिशन एंड रिटेंशन टूल्स. बेसिक CRM क्या होगा? क्या कस्टमर का डाटा एग्जिस्ट करता है आपके पास? डू वी रियली नो हु द कस्टमर इज? उसको कॉन्टैक्ट क्या करना है? उसकी इन्फॉर्मेशन वैलिडेटेड है? सो बेसिक कस्टमर मैनेजमेंट और एक्विजिशन और रिटेंशन के टूल जो होते हैं वो चाहे एक्सेल पे हों, चाहे आपके एक फंडामेंटल माइक्रोसॉफ्ट एक्सेस पे है, बट यू नीड द प्रोसेस टू रियली रिकॉर्ड दैट. और ये वो स्टेज होती है जहाँ पे आप कैप्चर करते हैं डाटा और प्रिजर्व करते हैं डाटा, बिकॉज यू आर गेटिंग रेडी. इसके बाद नेक्स्ट स्टेज आती है जहाँ पे आप स्केल करते हैं. तो इट्स थिंक अहेड, स्टार्ट स्मॉल, स्केल फास्ट. एंड स्केलिंग के स्टेज पे आपको क्लाउड बेस्ड ERP हो सकता है, टोटल कॉस्ट ऑफ ऑनरशिप आपने कंसिडर करनी है, टैलेंट डेवलपमेंट एंड रिटेंशन हो. खाली ERP लगाने से काम नहीं बनेगा, वो जो टैलेंट आपको चाहिए उसको डेवलप भी करना है और रिटेन भी करना है, क्योंकि सबसे पहले वही फ्रस्ट्रेट होता है उस पूरे जर्नी में. फिर डैशबोर्ड है, डाटा की गवर्नेंस है, डाटा की इवन दैट लेवल ऑफ गवर्नेंस कि आपने कैपिटल में कस्टमर का नाम लिखना है, स्मॉल में लिखना है या प्रॉपर केस में लिखना है, कितनी लेंथ होनी चाहिए. दीज आर द मैटर ऑफ डाटा गवर्नेंस. फिर प्रोसेसेस की इंटेग्रिटी क्या है, क्या वो चीज़ें रियली डिलीवर हो रही हैं, आपके डैशबोर्ड में नजर आ रहा है जो आप एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे थे, डू यू हैव अ बेंचमार्क टू कंपेयर विद. एंड देन मिनिमम कैपेबिलिटीज़ अगर आप देखेंगे तो आपको CRM चाहिए, सेल्स ऑर्डर्स का प्रोसेसिंग चाहिए, मटेरियल रिसोर्स प्लानिंग, प्रोक्योरमेंट, इन्वेंट्री, HR, फाइनेंशियल, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग और प्रोजेक्ट मैनेजमेंट, डिपेंड आप किस इंडस्ट्री में है. एंड दैट्स वेयर यू प्रोसेस फास्ट एंड एफिशिएंटली एंड इफेक्टिवली, एंड दैट्स प्रोवाइड यू द टाइमली एंड एक्यूरेट इंफॉर्मेशन टू द राइट पर्सन टू मेक दोज डिसीजन. सो अगर SME का रोड मैप मैं ACCA के प्लेटफॉर्म से देखूँ तो हमारी बेस्ड ऑन ऑल द रिसर्च एंड लर्निंग, this is the smallest way to look at that, how SME should be looking at the ERP or a digital transformation. और उसके पहले की जो preparation के phases हैं, if those are not ready and they jump on the ERP implementation, there is a likelihood it would be a cost and it will never be able to deliver the value. So just at the end, what I would suggest, think ahead, look from a business model perspective. Business is more important than the ERP. You have to understand the business requirement and the customer particularly, what are their behaviors and how they are interacting with the business. Start small, don't try to go with a big bang, and then scale it. And the scale should help you to really create that value. So I think, I hope it gives you a certain background based on the information or the research we have, and I'll definitely invite you to look at the ACCA Professional Insight. वहाँ पे आपको बहुत से business cases में मिलेंगे, and it's a free of cost professional insight. ACCA हर साल 20-25 million pounds उस पे spend करते हैं, but that's available free of cost. उसमें technology की side भी है, उसमें governance भी है, उसमें global economy के structures भी हैं, trends भी हैं. So it's a good piece of information. Last 12 months में 30 pieces ACC ने produce किए हैं across the different sectors. I hope you will enjoy that, and it will help SME as a free resource when they are trying to see the future. तो वहाँ पे business model of the future क्या है, उसमें एक बड़ी अच्छी research business model of the future पे भी है, जो technology और platform based business के fundamentals बता रही है, and it has nothing to do, it's not like वो एक कुछ finance related information नहीं होती, it's basically a business leaders और उनकी directions, opinion और बहुत सा data उसमें available होता है. So I hope that give you a little bit perspective around the digital transformation from an ACCA perspective, how we see a roadmap for SME. So I hope you will enjoy the conference, and we are available if you have to ask any question or any further thing you want to discuss, I'll be around. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, now let us begin with our first panel discussion on digital disruption in business and the role of ERP. The discussion will be moderated by Mr. Hamid Saeed, who is an expert in conducting workshops and seminars for the Fortune 500 companies. Please put your hands together for Mr. Hamid Saeed. As our first panelist, please welcome on stage Mr. Faisal Qamar, the co-founder and the managing partner of HRSG. Mr. Faisal Qamar, I believe he's not with us right now. Moving on to our second panelist, please welcome on stage Mr. Kashif Effendi, the Chief Executive Officer of Ream Rice Mills. welcome on stage Mr. Ghulam Abbas, the Chief Financial and General Manager at Panther Tires Limited. Please welcome on stage Mr. Farhan Tufail, the CEO and CIO of Invictus Solutions. I believe Mr. Farhan is also not with us right now. Please welcome on stage Mr. Nadeem A. Malik, the Director of Oracle.
Assalamu alaikum. I know it's quite early here. My name is Hamid Saeed, and I'm from New York. And I'll tell you a little bit about myself, and then we'll get into the discussion. I am a graduate engineer from UIT. That's where I started my, I would say, career. And, then I decided to do some soul searching and wanted to know what I really want to do in my life. So then I went to New York and I did MBA from there. And then life went on and still was exploring. And then finally I landed at FIT, Fashion Institute of Technology. And that's where I found my calling, When I got there, I said, oh my God, this is what I want to do in my life. And then I became a fashion designer, image consultant. And then when I came out of the gates, that's where my story really began. So I want to, from an IT point of view, I want to share some, a little bit of my past interaction with it. When I met Jerome Schwartz, the inventor of barcoding, he was intrigued by what I wanted to do. I wanted to create a hybrid of image consultation and customized clothing. And so I wanted to build a portal. So he said to me, I should talk to a lady. Her name was Faith Popcorn. She was the management guru at that time, and she had written the book. So when I met her, she told me, or she kind of predicted that everything is going to be sold on internet. Everything's going to be, this is like I'm talking about way back there in 1999. So her book was predicting that apparel is going to be sold on internet, even cars are going to be sold on internet, houses are going to be sold. At that time, nobody could fathom that how it's going to happen. So I got very intrigued, and I said, oh my God, I said, this lady's telling me this whole revolution is coming, so how I am going to adopt to that. So in 2001, I started creating a portal for customization of apparel. I want to tell you a little bit about that. So I said to myself, I said, I looked around all the, various technologies, this and that, but nothing I could find that could put all the data in one place. There were CRMs, they were running separate. Financial data was running on another platform, this and that. So I said, okay, I'm going to create a portal and where I'm going to put all the data of all my customers, and I want to have one view of my customer. I mean, one view was a new term at that time, one view of a customer. So anyway, my vision was this, that if at one point in time, quickly I want to go into my data and I want to find out a lawyer who's my customer in California, and who has blonde hair and blue eyes, and who is 5'10", and who works in a law firm which is like more than 25 lawyers. I want to, segregate, and I want to just get right to it. So I built this model which was giving me instant information about that. Now, what was relevant? I mean, why I wanted to do that? Because I want to service my customers better. So this way, when I have a new fabric, instead of sending it to all the customers, I could send it to him what's applicable to him. So that was my thought process there. So thank God, I was able to do that. That was the first customized model in the United States. And so that's my kind of little bit exposure to IT and all that. And later on, I became a trainer. First I dressed Governor of New York, then I dressed President of Bar Association. Here was Jerome Schwartz. So I dealt with like very top guys. And then that landed me into consulting companies, KPMG, Deloitte, Pricewaterhouse and Young. I was their dressing etiquette guy. I will tell them how to dress. But behind all that, this was that model which I shared with all these people from Wharton School of Pennsylvania. I mean, all my clients, or they were from top universities, and they would, when they saw the admin side of my portal that I built, they called it F-16. It had so much power. It has the scalability and this and that. So I'm not an ERP guy. I've never worked with that, but just a little story. So, I want to, the bottom line of this story is that why we are here today and why we're talking about this is how we can service our customer better. How can we cut costs? How can we be more efficient? And how we can be a disruptor instead of getting affected by disruption. So that's my small introduction, brief introduction rather. I have distinguished guests here. I mean, they are living it every day. This whole transformation which is taking place. They're very, very experienced people, and we're all going to definitely learn from them. I think their names have been already called, and what I will do is instead of, I should tell them who they are, I would like them to tell you who they are and their credentials, and that, so maybe that's where we should start. So starting with you, sir, would you please open your mic? I think the mic is open. Just tell the audience, first of all, about you, about your qualifications, maybe briefly. And then most importantly, and then I'll ask you the question, but most importantly, how you are using technology in what you're doing today. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much, Mohammed sir. Brief intro, I'm a graduate of IBA from Karachi, 1994, and then I worked for organizations like Caltex, Philips, Unilever, Tetley, Abu Dhabi Industrial Corporation. So I've done B2B, B2C across Pakistan, across Pan-Pacific, across MENA region. And for the last 5 years, I'm CEO of Ream Rice Mill, which is a joint venture of Al Ghurair and Al Muhaddib Group, based out of Lahore head office, and Murid Ke Narwar is our factory. I also am passionate about teaching, so I've been teaching adjunct faculty with IBA, Zabis, BNU, LUMS, a lot of institutes. So that's a side passion. The journey of IT for me, I've been raised and born in the sales and marketing function. So I've grown through the ranks of sales and marketing. So my interaction is more on the front end with the consumers. And the need for IT obviously came in when the consumers switched on those platforms. So, you have to be in sync, as the previous speakers have said. Ream Rice, जब मैं आया तो ये बिल्कुल एक trading house की तरह manage हो रहा था, even though multinationals थे. Fox Pro पे इनका IT system था, HR department नहीं था, IT department नहीं था. उधर से और company was almost bankrupt when I joined. तो वहाँ से लेके सफ़र company को ठीक करने का, फिर Abacus के साथ मिलके SAP Business One implement करने का. This is a little journey that I've had. It's not been easy because जो grassroots level पे लोग हैं वो उसी तरह पटवारी system के trained हैं, उनको system पे लाना, फिर information लाना, फिर data accuracy होना. So, it's wonderful in forums like this, and I'm, like I confessed, I'm a digital immigrant and I'm not from the IT field. So I look at things differently. I look at हमारे marketing में एक बड़ी पुरानी कहावत थी कि marketing is too important to be left to the marketeers. I think it applies to IT now, that IT is too important to be left to the IT department. Everybody has to be IT savvy in the organization, और यहाँ एक बहुत बड़ा gap आ रहा है because you have the techies and then you have the idiots like me. So ये जो bridge करना है gap, इसको करने की ज़रूरत है मेरे नज़दीक. Ream, to my knowledge, is the first SME rice mill in probably the world to have gone on to SAP. This is what Abacus told me because they didn't have any model worldwide of implementing this in the rice sector. And we had even grassroots issues like जब हम पैडी सेलेक्ट करते हैं मिलिंग के लिए तो हम तस्वीरें लेते हैं कुकिंग की. अब वो तस्वीर कैसे लोड हो सिस्टम में कोई ऑप्शन नहीं था. छोटी सी इस तरह की चीज़ें बता रहा हूँ आपको कि वो जो जिस प्रोसेस से हम गुजरे. So this is a little bit about Hamid Saab, my background, and then you can shoot any questions.
All right, so I'm going to ask him I would say on my mind, the question, and I'm sure it's on your mind as well, is this, that how you can preempt disruption. And instead of becoming, affected by disruption, business disruption, you actually become the disruptor yourself. So.
Okay, I think last year था या उससे एक साल पहले यहाँ एक Ad Asia conference हुई थी, and Tom Goodwin came here, जो digital Darwinism के author थे, and he was doing a roundup of the Pakistani startups, and he said something wonderful. He said कि मैं जितने 10 big आपके names हैं, Park Wheels ले लें, Daraz ले लें या जो भी थे, उन सब की जब मैं success stories पढ़ रहा था, तो he said the common thing was they were all focused on money and not on people. So I think for me this was the key. कि जब भी disruption की बात होती है, if it is focused on people, if you read the book Upstarts जो Brad Stone ने लिखी थी जिसमें Airbnb और Uber की success story है, it was all about, the guy was standing in San Francisco looking for a cab, बारिश हो रही है, वहाँ से Uber का idea आया. तो real insights, real people, local surrounding. It wasn't that they were looking to disrupt the world, they were looking to solve a genuine problem. Airbnb वाला जो है, he went to Washington to attend Obama's inauguration, couldn't find a room. और वहाँ से वो आइडिया जर्मिनेट किया. तो ये जो the world as I see it now, और हामिद साहब का जो सवाल है, I was absolutely blown when I saw this statistic, क्योंकि मैं पढ़ाता हूँ तो थोड़ा पढ़ना पड़ता है, कि जो वर्ल्ड का डेटा इस वक्त है, what we have in gazillions of whatever bytes they use, उसका 90% last 2 साल में produce हुआ है. So you can imagine the exponential way in which data is growing. So how do you make sense of all this? So you've got all this unstructured data, but thankfully now you have machine learning. So you have AI to make sense of it. For organizations that want to disrupt and not be disrupted, as Hamid Saab said, it's not just enough to have that data and have machine learning. It has to be about people as well. Who's going to implement all this? I consult for a lot of companies, and trust me, the main issue is how do you create actionable insights from the data that you have, even with the machine learning tools that you have? Because who's going to transform that into insights and then execute it? अभी एक कंपनी का नाम नहीं लूँगा, इज्जत बचा लेता हूँ. They invested millions on getting one of these big 4 companies to do a wonderful strategy exercise for them. Millions of dollars. आ गया 6 महीने हो गए, result नहीं आया. They hired another firm, which is by the way represented here. I won't name them. उनसे उन्होंने पूछा हुआ क्या, गड़बड़ क्या हुई. उन्होंने कहा जी execution नहीं हुई ताड़ी. तो आप strategy बना लें, बड़ा सा एक platform के कि who's going to execute, where are the people, and have you trained them to be able to respond to those insights that you generate out of this. So मेरे नज़दीक एक बहुत बड़ा issue ये है जो Tom Goodwin ने identify किया था हमारे लिए, where is the focus on people? And I could speak for hours on every sector in Pakistan, including banking, my favorite, where it's not focused on people at all. It's all focused about making money, about implementing some tool. मैं छोटी मिसाल देके ख़त्म करता हूँ, बात लंबी हो जाएगी. McDonald's जाएं ज़रा, I live in Bahria town, एक digital kiosk लगा हुआ है. I went there, मैंने उस पर ऑर्डर किया, पे भी कर दिया कार्ड से. जब लेने गया उसने कहा ये वाला आइटम तो है ही नहीं स्टॉक में. मैंने कहा फिर ये क्यों लगाया हुआ है यहाँ, नज़र बट्टू है आपका ये. जब इससे आपका इन्वेंट्री सिंक नहीं है तो फिर इसकी ज़रूरत क्या है. ये वाली डिजिटलिज्म नहीं चाहिए, इससे डिसरप्शन नहीं आती. ये कॉस्मेटिक चेंजेस हैं. जो रियल डिसरप्शन आती है व्हेन यू फोकस ऑन पीपल एंड देन कम अप विद सॉल्यूशंस व्हिच देन इंटीग्रेट्स द डेटा विद मशीन लर्निंग.
अच्छा सर, आपने उबर की बात की है. A lot of people that, I've been reading a lot, and they claim that Uber is not actually disruption in a very, the way that we call disruption. वो कहते हैं स्काइप डिसरप्शन क्रिएट की, स्काइप ने या जूम ने, these are like underlined, Google, Wikipedia ने जो है वो disruption create किया है. As far as Uber is concerned, they saw a need and they filled it. और दूसरी बात इसके बारे में थोड़ा सा बताइए कि do you feel that way कि Uber ने actually disrupt किया है या कि there are some other underlying technologies?
आपका मेरा डायलॉग हो रहा है सर पैनलिस्ट और भी है, बट ऊबर ने बिल्कुल किया.
अच्छा, दूसरी बात सर, सेकंड जरा मेरा सेकंड क्वेश्चन ये है, आपने you emphasize on people के लोगों की ट्रेनिंग नहीं हुई है. अब Uber में देखें कि I mean there's very few people involved. I mean in terms of this. I mean they created this and then basically we all know that how it works and all that. तो उसमें जरा बताइए कि उन्होंने अपने people कैसे I mean because we see less people there managing it. Maybe there's a whole big team, I don't see it. तो ये दोनों चीज़ों के बारे में जरा
देखिए उन्होंने क्या किया. मैं कह रहा 100-year-old हिस्ट्री थी टैक्सी की, उसको पूरे को डिस्टर्ब किया जस्ट बाय एन ऐप. और वो क्यों क्रिएट हुआ? बिकॉज समबडी हैड दिस ब्रेन वेव कि यार किसी के पास गाड़ी होगी, जिसके पास जगह होगी, जो ले जा सकता होगा, उसको अगर हेल कर लूँ, पैसे दे दूँ तो हो जाए. उनकी अपनी कोई नहीं है. आई मीन ये बड़ी एक फेमस इन्फोग्राफिक है कि a lot of companies don't own any assets now.
Right.
All they have is, so what they did was, and this is the key I think, that you have the technology now and you have the insights now. How do you make it actionable?
Right.
हमारे यहाँ जब मैं पाकिस्तानी सीन देखता हूँ स्टार्टअप्स का, तो क्या होता है, धोबी ऑनलाइन कर दें, ग्रोसरी ऑनलाइन कर दें, यानी कि ग्रोसर्स मर गए हैं, धोबी मर गए हैं, हमें उनको ऑनलाइन करने की ज़रूरत है. जो रियल नीड्स हैं उनको आप ऑटोमेट नहीं कर रहे हैं. फाइनेंशियल सेक्टर इंक्लूजन अभी भी आपके यहाँ बहुत नेसेंट है. बिग एरिया फॉर डिसरप्शन वेटिंग टू हैपन. तो आई थिंक द फोकस ऑन पीपल इज इम्पॉर्टेंट बिकॉज पीपल आर द वंस हु गोइंग टू डिलीवर ऑन दोज प्रोमिसेस दैट द टेक्नोलॉजी is there for us to make.
Okay, great. All right, we'll come back to you after a round of introductions and questions. My next very distinguished panel member is Basab. Nice to have you here. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your journey, and then how you have applied this technology in your company that you are GM of right now. So please tell the audience about your experience.
This is Ghulam Abbas. By profession, I'm chartered accountant and also the member of ICMAP. And I've been in the industry for last 20 years. And fortunately, I got the opportunity to get the ERP implemented in each and every organization that I have worked for till today. Starting from the Great Plain, and then to Oracle, and then finally SAP in the Panther Tires. So I have seen with my eyes how the business transforms by using these ERP systems. So I will be sharing with my experience with you later in the discussion session. Something more about myself. I'm here not to speak about some technicalities about the technical digital disruption, but to give the viewpoint from the perspective of businesses.
Okay, so my question is then how an ERP platform can help companies deal with digital disruption taking place in the industry?
Sir, I know you are also a businessman. Digital disruption is not new to the businessman.
Okay.
It's happening every